Tesla's secret experiment. X-rays, microwaves, radiation therapy, radar, every harmful beam you can imagine was created by Trump's paternal uncle. He was involved in all of them. All this before confiscating the work of Nikola Tesla on the 33rd floor of the New York City Hotel. John Trump worked for the U.S. National Defense. He was described by his peers as a pioneer in the scientific, engineering, and medical applications of high-voltage machinery. They also said of him that John, over a period of 3 decades, would be approached by people of all sorts because he could make megavolt beams of ions and electrons, death rays they were called. And though the rays he developed were deadly, it was reported that they were only used for benevolent causes, cancer research, and sterilizing sludge out in Deer Island. Although much of his radar technology was used for military applications. Now, we've talked extensively on this channel about the theory of particle dissociation rays emanating from the nearby Brookhaven National Labs on Long Island, and that could have been the technology that was used to dustify the Slim Towers. Well, Trump's Uncle John was center stage at Brookhaven's Particle Accelerator program. Their company, the HVEC, which was led by John Trump and a man named Vandergraaf, actually created this particle accelerator called the electrostatic accelerator. And their company placed one of these at Brookhaven National Lab in the 1960s. Here it is here on your screen. What were they doing with these beams? Well, they were disassociating particles, breaking down particles to find smaller particles, so it would make sense that such a thing could be turned into a weapon to cut through solid objects and disassociate solid objects. So none of this is really a stretch in theory. So we have Trump's uncle reviewing and analyzing the papers of Nikola Tesla when he died in this building. And this is the mysterious hotel that we are going to talk about today, the very place where Nikola Tesla died on the 33rd floor. Let's take a look. This is a drawing from Nikola Tesla's patent number US 511916 electric generator and number US 517900 steam engine is what you're looking at right here. Now I'm going to show you something that quite frankly is unexplainable, because all I did was superimpose the steam engine over a single story from the New Yorker hotel where Nikola Tesla died. And this is what I found. Explain this any other way. Steam engine, Nikola Tesla patent from the New Yorker hotel where he died. Now we're going to look at some numerology associated with this. We're going to look at some strange stories of ultraviolet light machines that were carted all around the hotel, used to sanitize the bathrooms that were then wrapped in cellophane. We're going to look at the ultraviolet properties of cellophane. We're also going to look at all of the history of this strange hotel, which I'm calling the Shining Motel. And we'll get into why that is as well. Steam engine diagram, Tesla, and the hotel that he died in. This is the Wyndham New Yorker Hotel. This is it here. This is the Tesla Shining Hotel, the New Yorker. It is the only self-contained power plant in existence at its time. I'm going to show that to you. And you're going to start to see links to Tesla himself and the research that he was doing. And you're like, well, how can that be? I believe that this hotel quite possibly could have been commissioned by Tesla himself as some sort of experiment that they told no one about. The people staying in the hotel becoming part of the experiment. When it was built, the New York hotel had a coal-fired steam boilers and generators, sufficient to produce more than 2,200 kilowatts of direct current electric power. At the time, this was the largest private power plant in the entire United States. You think Tesla had nothing to do with that? He was the power guy. He was the energy guy. He was the free electricity guy. Of course, he had something to do with this project. Now, there is no historical record tying Tesla into this building before he moved into it in a very peculiar year. Let me show you that. He moved in 1933. He was 77 years old. Now, while he was there, he would go downstairs to spend time with the generator's engineers, because in the bottom of this thing was a giant generator. He would tinker with the plant. So there is your experiment, but it goes far deeper. I'm just scratching the surface. The hotel's own direct current generators were still in use during the Northeast blackout of 1965. But by the late 1960s, the hotel's power system had been modernized to alternating current. In a dedication ceremony in 2008, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers named the New Yorker hotel's direct current power plant a milestone in electric engineering. Now, this is where things get creepy, because each room in this building had 4 radio stations. So every room was tied into this electric current. Tesla occupied suites 3327 and 3328. Let me show you the plaque that shows that. This is 3328. This was his study, and just next door, he was in 3327. This one here. And he died in this room. Now, many of you will remember the movie The Shining, room 237. And this is scrambled in 237. Now, this is on the 33rd floor. So now you're starting to see a bit of a pattern. Any one of these numbers doesn't mean anything. But when you tie all this stuff together, it starts to form a picture. He moved there in 1933. He was 77 years old. Moved to the 33rd floor in room 3327. He was 74 years old when the building opened. It had been open 3 years before he moved in. And there were 4 stories below ground. We're going to look at diagrams of this building. We're going to pull this building apart today. There were 4 stories below ground, 43 stories above ground, for a total of 47 stories. When you look at the building, there's actually 4 corners and 7 tiers. 4 corners, as all buildings have, and 7 tiers. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like a 7-tiered cake. So, what they were really trying to say here is 47, not 43. Here's the creepy part. 43 stories tall, and it opened 43 years before the World Trade Center opened in 1973. Well, guess what year 1973 was? The year the World Trade Center opened. That was the Hebrew year, 5733. So it's a full circle. Unbelievable. There were 33,000 square feet of meeting space. All these 33s linked in here. And in 1966, it filed bankruptcy. Now I want you to look at this image. And what you see are 6 arms, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 6 gaps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 88 years since this building opened. This is a picture of its construction, old photos I-beam construction, which was popular at the time when it opened in 1930. I was looking for some kind of wiring or something like that. But here's an old article from 1930 talking about the New Yorker hotel. Modern hotel is a huge machine. Glimpse at the mechanical servants that perform superhuman tasks hidden from the sight of guests. This is from Popular Science Monthly from 1930. So this guy's pictured Warren D. Lewis, the chief engineer in the power room of the hotel's independent lighting plant. This was a big deal. It was the only thing of its kind in the entire nation. A power plant, electricity. Of course, Nikola Tesla had something to do with the construction. He was 77 at the time. He moved in here. He's probably waiting for it to be completed, the construction. So they go on to talk about in this article how something happened the first day. They lost power. The guests were about to show up. They had to make sure everything was fixed before the guests showed up. So they're talking about that. There's a lot of automation in this building. And they talk about how the servants were underground. They are buried mostly in 4 underground floors, like the machinery behind the scenes of a modern theater. Almost like the Wizard of Oz, right? Hidden behind the curtain. And they serviced all these guests that came in. Now, this was a middle-class hotel at the time, used to link in to Penn Station. It had a private access to Penn Station. Now, we've talked all about the train systems and what that really means. This represents the serpent. So if you're going to have something like this, a self-contained power plant, a building servicing the train station, basically, then of course you have to have a train involved, right? This is all part of it. Through its windows, I saw what looked like the engine room of a great steamship. I'll take you through the hotel, Lewis said. We'll start from the bottom up. Black cylinders with gleaming metal bands. Those were the 4 steam engines in the hotel power plant, with flywheels tall as a man. They were coupled to dynamos. The hotel makes its own electricity for everything from lighting lamps in the guest rooms to cleaning carpets. This was in 1930. There's the fancy elevator they had. Circular staircase going down to the bowels of this building. Here's some more images of it from 1930. They've got cutaways here showing the 4 stories beneath the ground. Here's the street level here. There were 4 stories beneath the ground. And in the bottom of this thing, they had the largest electric laundry in the world. And they had this crazy steam engine down here, as you can see here. Generator. Simply unbelievable. Maybe even the same plan that Tesla patented, which is the shape of the building, as we showed you. The floor plan of that floor looks like a cross-section of that steam engine. 1933 was a weird year because that was the year that the Hoover Dam had completed construction. So to me, this almost dovetails in with that whole era. Construction and feats, amazing feats of construction. Hoover Dam was a big deal as well. There was a secret copper tunnel. Copper is a conductor. It went to Penn Station. The Serpent Line. This was underground. This is it here. This is the New Yorker Hotel. Here's a secret tunnel that went underground and connected to Penn Station, which is here. It's interesting. They've got this ultraviolet color, and we're going to get into the ultraviolet. There's some weird machine that they carted around all these floors, and they offered for free to sanitize your bathroom with this ultraviolet device. It looked like something out of Star Trek. And then they wrapped the bathroom in cellophane. So here's the ad. This is from an actual newspaper clipping. Enjoy this really new hotel service. And I'm going to show you how this links in to Tesla's research on ultraviolet rays. This is called the protector ray bathrooms. Portable ultraviolet ray equipment of high intensity now renders everything hotel, New York, or bathroom thoroughly sanitary. Then it is immediately sealed with cellophane. What is this about? To keep it wholesomely fresh and clean for your personal use. No charge for this exclusive service. Protector Ray bathrooms reflect the progressive attitude of the truly great hotel that 3 million Americans consider their New York home. It means you get more for your dollar at Hotel New Yorker than ever before. This is the machine. This looks like something out of a Star Trek episode. Unbelievable. This, I believe, was some kind of secret device. This is a patent from Tesla himself. He talks about ultraviolet rays, shows a modified, figure 3 shows a modified form of an apparatus used in connection with an artificial source of radiant energy. So he's talking about sourcing this invention of his with radiant energy from ultraviolet rays, an arc. So if he's going to have and need ultraviolet rays as a source of energy, what better way to do that than to send a maid around with an ultraviolet lamp into all the rooms to sanitize, quote unquote, the room, and then wrap it in cellophane. What does cellophane have to do with this, Casey? Because they talk about a dielectric film that's also needed for this invention to gain power. Well, what does cellophane have to do with film and electronics? Let me show you. Because there are studies on cellophane. Here's another article about the protector ray cellophane. New York hotel bathrooms clean was to zap each of them with ultraviolet rays and then seal the room off with cellophane. They weren't just wrapping the toilet in cellophane. They were sealing the room off with cellophane. So what does cellophane have to do with electricity and ultraviolet rays, Casey? Plastic films vary considerably in their capacity to transmit ultraviolet and infrared radiation. Cellophane can be employed as a filtering material, although in its present form it does not possess features superior to available glasses. Observe that ultraviolet transmission roughly parallels transmission of the shortwave length visible. And you can apply different colors and things, additives into the cellophane to block out certain lights. But the studies show that cellophane transmits ultraviolet light. It's what it does best. Here's a book on optical remote sensing. It's talking about satellites, telescopes that can monitor interstellar things. And in this book, they talk about cellophane. This is from that book, Ultraviolet Spectra of Organic Molecules and the Interstellar Medium. So basically, to sum this up, is ultraviolet rays are very stable in cellophane. See, it's mentioned right here. Cellophane is made out of wood pulp. It's actually organic. Cellophane is organic. You probably didn't know that. Cellophane is the stuff they wrap like flowers in. You go to the florist. That's cellophane. And it transmits ultraviolet light very well. Exploring the forgotten Art Deco artifacts of the New York Hotel. And I was looking at some of these pictures. I mean, these are vintage pictures going back to the 1930s. Couples dancing here. New York is famous for its historic, glamorous hotels, but often overlooked, yet perhaps the most storied hotel of them all is the one with the most iconic name, the New Yorker. This giant red sign dominates the West 34th Street, and it's photographed in all these landmarks as a landmark. Here's a vintage picture of it. They mention Nikola Tesla died a virtual recluse after living alone in the hotel for over a decade. He was living alone because he was probably doing experiments. He was down there in the room, and they had the ultraviolet thing going on. So he was wired for something. And maybe they were testing on, the people. Maybe they were drawing energy off of people's magnetic fields and harnessing that somehow. Maybe created some kind of different kind of energy. Or maybe he was at the end of life and he was wondering if maybe there's a way to transfer his consciousness through the airwaves. Who knows what was going on? All I know is these numbers don't lie. There's something weird about all this. And maybe he wasn't hip to it, or maybe he was. Here's the World Trade Center connections. Now remember, his study was in room 3328. Well, the World Trade Center stood 28 years, opened in the Hebrew year 5733, and Building 7 was 47 stories tall. All these numbers right here link in to the Tesla story as it relates to this hotel. Simply unbelievable. Here it is here, 47, 7, 33. It's all there. So was he doing some kind of experiment on extending life? Maybe there were some regenerative properties to extend life. There were a lot of dignitaries that came to visit Tesla. And this was a middle of the road hotel, but yet you had Muhammad Ali, you had other very well-off people coming and staying in this hotel. And I've always been a believer that the Twin Towers somehow harness your energy. One World Trade Freedom Tower somehow harnesses people's energy. I also believe when you go to a stadium and watch a sports event, or you go to a movie theater, they're designed to harness and vampirize your energy somehow. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but I'm convinced that something like that is going on. Let's look at some more of these pictures. This creepy hotel. It was designed as a hotel for the travelers. See, this was a middle of the road hotel. And workers coming into Manhattan from the station, from the Port Authority bus terminal a few blocks north, from the West Side docks. So why were all these dignitaries going there to visit Tesla? And why was he there in this middle of the road hotel? When the New Yorker opened on January 2nd, it was designed as one of the largest, most sophisticated, and technologically advanced hotels in the world. They called it a vertical village. Its 43 stories resemble a self-contained town with 2,500 rooms. Kitchens were staffed by 135 chefs, blah, blah, blah. They had phone operators, 80 feet underground. Its own power plant, the largest in the United States, was big enough to generate power for a city of approximately 35,000 people, and boasted a radio in every room and its own private radio station. Now, for some of you that don't know about frequencies, I know some of you are attacked, you're targeted with frequencies. You're suffering, you're in pain, you're getting like bombarded. When you're in the middle of a city, you're surrounded by this stuff, these frequencies, okay? I think Tesla knew about this. In 1948, the New Yorker had more televisions under one roof than any other building in the world. And servicemen would stay there as guests before boarding the steamliners for Europe. And they were proud that they got to stay there, so they'd put this on their dugouts and stuff during the war, as you can see in the picture here. This lobby. I mean, this looks like the lobby from the Shining film, right? Where he goes into the gold room. This goes on, and then here's showing the connection to Penn Station. Here is the copper conducting doors going down to Penn Station. Vintage photograph there. Sealed door. And this is about as creepy as it gets, you guys. This reminds me of the whole Columbus Circle, the tiled underground walkways where they had torture chambers and missing children. I mean, this stuff it's about as creepy as it gets. So this is it today. It's all blocked off now, but this is what it looked like. Some more vintage photos from the period, Art Deco. And here is the actual power plant. Now let's read a little bit about this. This part's interesting. 80 feet below the sidewalk, at the remnants of the New Yorker's private power plant, a vast undertaking, the DC generating plant was the largest private one of its kind when it was built in 1929. Powerful enough to provide electricity for a city of 35,000 people. The motors were controlled by a 60-foot switchboard. This power plant was so remarkable, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics, okay, we already read that, On par with the Niagara Falls hydroelectric plant. You can still see the operating switches for the skating rink, north ballroom parlors, and coffee shop lights, ghostly reminders of the hotel's glamorous past. Now, what I noticed in this photograph, if you look closely here, you can see the hexagonal, whatever these connectors are here. They're hexagons, which is what's on the North Pole of Saturn. Okay, it's a cube. It's a three-dimensional cube. Hexagon. I looked at some of Nikola Tesla's drawings, and he does have this hexagonal shape in some of his drawings. The hexagon, we're stuck in this cube dimension, so it makes sense that some cube solutions might be the most efficient in this prison reality, right? It's like if you are in a prison cell, you only have so much room. Your bed has to be a certain size. Your toilet has to be a certain size. It doesn't make the bed or the toilet evil. They fit into the cell the way they're supposed to maximize the space. It's kind of the same thing when it comes to inventors and people like that. Their inventions don't necessarily make them evil. They're fitting into the reality that we're kind of stuck in. Pretty much there's no doubt in my mind Nikola Tesla knew this was a giant experiment. They built this experiment for him. Okay. We're going to look at the Trump connection as well. So here's where it talks about Tesla being, while a guest there, he'd go downstairs to spend time with the generator engineers and tinker with the plant. Unbelievable. Here is the weather lady. She did the weather back then. Look at, they got a giant thermometer here. Okay, this stuff's really interesting to me. Look at even the style. Look at the shoes. In-house weather reporter, Emerald O'Day. Now, this is crazy. The Christmas tree. Now, I don't know if that says 33 or just 3. All I see is a 3. There's a guy on a ladder. They're decorating this Christmas tree and getting ready for Christmas in 1944. Gala Christmas tree in the lobby of the New Yorker receiving its final pruning and trimming before its annual Yuletide appearance. Now, this Yuletide thing is very occultic, and they come right out and say it right here in this period announcement of the Christmas tree. Now, that's occult. You never hear Yuletide being associated with Christmas. Back then, nobody was awake, and so they could just say it, and nobody knew the difference. Ancient Germanic peoples. This is where your Christmas came from, people. Okay? You just saw that in an old photograph. Odin. Now, I've been watching the Vikings, and it's all about Odin. They go on and on about Odin, right? In Valhalla. And they want to die in battle so they can go to the halls of Valhalla and be with virgins and fight forever and eternity. Terms with an etymological equivalent to Yule are used in the Nordic countries for Christmas with its religious rites, but also for the holidays of this season. Today, Yule is also used to a lesser extent in the English-speaking world as a synonym for Christmas. Okay, so Yule log, Yule goat, Yule boar, Yule singing, and others stem from pagan Yule. You think you're celebrating Christmas, but you're actually celebrating a pagan Germanic thing. Okay. Now, for those of you that watch Vikings, you know that it's all about sacrifice. That's all they do. They sacrifice each other and animals and all kinds of weird stuff, right? They're all about killing, and they pray to Odin. Now, here's a weird thing. The Unification Church, which is South Korea, it's a South Korean church. They bought the hotel in 1976. They used it as their world mission center. This Unification Church was all about bringing together all the religions into one world religion. This is what they did. Even Islam, they basically tried to include everybody under Christianity. So how does Trump fit into all this? Well, Trump's uncle was brought in when Tesla died, okay, in this hotel. So Trump's uncle was at MIT for decades. Trump was involved in radar research for the Allies in the Second World War. And in 1943, the FBI had enough faith in his technical ability and his discretion to call him in when Nikola Tesla died in his room at the New Yorker Hotel in Manhattan, raising the question of whether enemy agents might have had a chance to learn some of his secrets before the body was found. One fear was that Tesla was working on a death ray. I mean, who knows what this thing could have been, right? This could have been a giant laser. Maybe they were creating a giant laser that shot up and was trying to break the firmament. I mean, who knows? All this stuff is connected. The Hoover Dam's connected to the Twin Towers, connected to the New Yorker Hotel, connected to the One World Freedom Tower. These Masons build these things, okay? They build them. And it's all part of a plan that transcends generations. It transcends people's ages, which points to a higher intelligence. And I got news for you. It ain't God. It ain't God, okay? These people are transcending their own lifespans in these projects and passing on the information generation to generation. It's unbelievable sometimes when you try to wrap your brain around what's really going on here. I mean, I've got these numbers up and I can't even believe it myself. 33,000 square feet of meeting space. He knew. I mean, he would know. He knows what 33 means. He wasn't dumb. Would he have really let them put him on the 33rd floor without knowing about what 33 means? I mean, 33 transcends into the scientific world as well. There's a lot of things that 33 relates to, not just in the spiritual realm, but the scientific realm as well. And he must have been onto it. The fact that it was 1933, he was 77. I mean, he must have put all this together. Okay, he wasn't a stupid man, which suggests that he was part of it. But again, I don't know. It's a mirror. It's a 33 mirror, which is the same as this generator, the steam generator. This is also a 3 mirrored. Look at that. 33 in the floor plan of this building, the New Yorker Hotel. Now remember, that generator that you're looking at on your screen right now is almost the same steam generator that's down in the basement of this building. So it's definitely intentional in the floor plan of the building.